Welcome to Silicon Valley Successes. On today's show, we have David Haubert. He is the principal at Trinity Consulting, helping businesses succeed as technology disrupts business as usual. He's also the wildly popular mayor of Dublin, California. With his background of navigating both the public and private sectors, he's got the inside scoop to share for success. And right now, you're about to meet him on Silicon Valley Successes.
Cool. Great job.
David, welcome to Silicon Valley Successes. You are the first mayor on this show. Could you tell us a little bit about your history, your background, how you got to where you are today?
Well, first of all, Sean, I want to thank you for having me and congratulate you on the success of your show. It's wildly popular and very successful. I'm honored to be here. Let's say, I would tell you I've been the mayor of Dublin now for almost 6 years on the mayor or city council. Before that, I was on the school board for 10 years. So I've been a public servant now almost 18 years, and really I'd give back to the community. I wouldn't call us a politician. I would call us community servants, mayors, and I've gotten to know a lot of the mayors in the Bay Area. And we, I like to say, are elected of the people, by the people, and for the people. We're here to serve the people in our community, and I think I do a pretty good job of that. Most mayors that I know do a pretty good job of that. But I started off with a young family in public schools in Dublin, a growing community, a great place to live and work and raise a family. But my daughter was in the first grade. I volunteered at her school and felt like they needed a little help on the school board, so I ran for the school board and served for 10 years before moving over to the city council and then over into mayor. Before that, though, I always had a career. My first job was in the Southern California area. I worked in the banking industry back in 1990-91. I feel a little old now sharing that with you, Sean. But back then in the banking days, the S&L crisis hit in 1990, 1991, and savings and loans were being taken over by the federal government. And I decided to go back to school to UCLA to get my MBA, moved over to various companies, Nestle Food Company, PepsiCo, Safeway, and I even became an IBMer through an acquisition of a company that I was consulting for. So always in the private sector. One thing we have to remember, small businesses, or rather small mayors in California, we're basically volunteers, Sean. We volunteer our time. We get very little stipends to do the job we do, and we always have to have a day job to keep the bills paid, right, and raise a family. So about 8 years ago, I started my own business called Trinity Consulting, and it's been a wild ride ever since.
So right now, you're currently working at your own company, Trinity Consulting, and the mayor of Dublin. How are you able to balance the two?
Yeah, it's a tough work-life balance, Sean, but you always make it work. Family always comes first, and mayor comes second, and business comes a close second and a half, because business is always important. The client is always number one, and I know customers need to be served. So, you learn to deal with technology the best that you can. Fortunately, I don't have to commute too far, Sean. I work from home, and City Hall is about 3 miles away, so I can be there in a flash. And you do a good job with it. So I've been able to work with great people. You get to pick and choose the clients that you work for. You just have to always remember that you work for a hard boss, because I'm hard on myself and always try to do the best that I can, and I make it work.
So in your position and with all your experience in the private and public sector, what advice or how can you help an early stage company, a startup?
Yeah, well, great question. From a local government perspective, cities are always trying to attract great companies to come and put their headquarters in their city, and that helps the local workforce get good jobs, and it raises the economic prosperity for everybody. So we're always supporting new companies, whether it's through our policies or through our economic development teams who are always looking to bring new businesses to Dublin, to their city. We're always looking to help fill vacancies if we have them. When the economy is really humming along like it is now, vacancy rates are really low, and so rents go up, and we have to balance that out a little bit or help the businesses do that. We take advantage of state of California programs to help create new jobs. So our economic development teams are out doing that. And we also help support, and I would recommend every city help and support the local accelerators, local startup incubators, supporting the local economy through the chambers of commerce. In Dublin, we have a very active chamber of commerce. We have iGate, which is an incubator, and we have a group called Innovate Tri-Valley devoted to supporting the Tri-Valley. We have the Hacienda Business Park and the Bishop Ranch Tech Park or park, one of the best run, I think, one of the best run business parks in the country. And it's just a great place, a great ecosystem. It's still young in its infancy, and we're helping to grow it every day.
So that answer, there was so much information there. Let's go back. Can you explain a little bit about the role of the economic development team in a city?
Yeah, okay, great one. So we have a team of people that will sit and listen to either a prospective company that wants to move into the city or a new company that wants to start up. We'll understand what their needs are and how we can put that together with something that can help them, whether it's finding a space to locate, whether it's changing or looking at what zoning would fit what they need to do, whether it's really explaining the process to them from the very beginning, because if you don't know the process, you go down the wrong path, you'll end up having to back up and go down a different way. So the economic development team helps companies work, understand the process and understand how things work in the city, and that helps them get on the right path.
So if a company, a startup, or a small business wanted to get a meeting with an economic development team, can they just cold email, or how does a meeting even get set up?
Yeah, so that's another great question, Sean, and I'll tell you that everyone, my personal cell phone is public knowledge. People call me all the time. I connect on email to them. You can call City Hall, just about every City Hall, ask for the economic development team, and they'll connect you. Also, local chambers of commerce are very easy to find, and when you have a chamber of commerce working very closely with the economic development team, you've got a recipe for success.
So we had Don Mayer, who's Mountain View Chamber of Commerce, episode 3, if you'd like to check that out. But David, tell us a little bit about how your Chamber of Commerce works with the City of Dublin, how that reunion or that collaboration works.
Yeah, great question. We actually outsource a lot of the things that we can't do ourselves. We'll partner with the Chamber and share with them what we would like them to do for us, and that'll come sometimes with the sponsorship fee. We'll pay them to do that. And they also help us by giving us feedback that they get from the local businesses. We do a lot of great things together. In fact, they sponsor our State of the City address every year, where the mayor gets up and talks about the state of the city, and that's a Chamber of Commerce event. They also hold monthly business meetups in our City Hall, so we bring people in and they can meet right in our City Hall and see just how closely we work together with our chamber.
And another thing that you mentioned in that amazing answer was cities should support incubators and accelerator programs. Do you have a story or experience where something like this happened in the city of Dublin? Yeah,
another great question. Sean, we put our money where our mouth is, and so we actually took city funds. We partnered with the local cities of Livermore, Pleasanton, and Danville. So all 4 of our cities got together, pooled our resources, and started an incubator called iGate. iGate is located in Livermore, but it's a partnership between Dublin, Pleasanton, Danville, and Livermore. And it has a very close relationship with the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. Here you have a national lab funded by the Department of Energy from Washington, D.C., one of very few national labs in the whole country, right in our own backyard. So we created iGate, and they have a lot of great companies that are being incubated within, I think it's 4 or 5 miles away from the national lab. and we help fund it. And what happens then is as the companies grow, and as you know, it's up and out of an incubator, most of them stay in the Tri-Valley. And that's what we want to see happen, is that all the talent that creates companies will try to stay in the Tri-Valley. But it needs more than just an incubator. We've got now local funding. So Tri-Valley Ventures is a funding mechanism funded by a local businessman, Greg Hitchin, and a few other partners that came together and said, we need to add funding to our ecosystem. So we've got great talent. We've got great institutions like iGate and Innovate Tri-Valley. Now we've got funding so companies can stay right here in the Tri-Valley.
So when you're saying Tri-Valley, for people in China and Korea and overseas listening, how close is that to the Bay Area? Is it part of the Bay Area? Is it considered the new Silicon Valley? Could you talk a little bit about the Tri-Valley?
Great question. I would always call it the outer ring of the Silicon Valley. And most people understand what outer ring is, and certainly it's the truth, because we're on the outer edge of what you would call probably the farthest driving distance you would want to make to the heart of Silicon Valley. And so a lot of people that live in Dublin actually drive every day to Silicon Valley. It takes them about an hour and a half, depending on the traffic, and or they take the bus. We have the Google buses coming in and rounding up people and taking them down into the heart of Silicon Valley. We're the outer ring. What that means is land is still available for building. You can buy a brand new house in the Tri-Valley for less than it costs in the heart of Silicon Valley. And a lot of talent lives out there. So when they want to start a new company, so when we talk about startups, we've got a lot of talent there developing companies on the weekend or in the evening or on their days off, and that's how they start up in the very beginning.
So if I wanted to work with you as a mayor but on a consultant basis, what does that look like, and what are the areas that are okay to work on and are not okay to work on?
Yeah, great question. There's a very bright line. I know it can be confusing because in some countries the government just doesn't get involved in local businesses like that. I like to say though that the business of politics is business, and our job is to help business get things done. We have a very clear, bright line. Anything that we vote on as an official, if we have a financial interest in it, we can't vote on it. We have to recuse ourselves from a vote in which we have a financial interest. I'll give you an example. I know a mayor where a Costco wanted to come into their city. Well, the mayor owned Costco stock. He was a stockholder of Costco. Not a lot of shares, but he owned stock in Costco. He wasn't able to vote on whether Costco could come and build in the city. It required zoning changes. And so he just recused himself from that vote. Companies where they would come before my city council for a vote, I would have to recuse myself. And so I stay away from those. But anything that doesn't come before us for a vote is fair game. And that's why many mayors have law practices, or they may be the local dentist, or maybe even a teacher in the school district. You just stay away from the things that you have a direct vote on, and you're fine.
You had mentioned that maybe in some countries or areas, the local government does not get involved. But there's also that extreme where there's some countries where the government is everything. They are the final say and the first say. If a delegation from a country like that came to a city to meet a startup or a company, and that startup thought, wow, if my local mayor was there to meet these people, it would really impress them and we could get a contract or negotiate. Is that something that a local mayor might do for a company in their city, or is that just an idea?
Well, one of the areas that comes into play often is in the real estate and in the land. And if they want to build something, they sometimes come to the mayor and say, "Can you give me some land?" And in California, in the United States, that's not how it works. Private landowners own that land. We would control the zoning of that land. So I would have the conversation that the land use for a particular piece of land would make what the land use is currently designated, and maybe we could talk about changing that land use if it was required. But when it comes to actually owning the land or buying the land, we would steer them towards the landowner or their broker. And that's when we explain that all the land is owned primarily by private individuals or companies. We will connect them, and we will talk about how we might change the land use, but that's where it stops. So there's a little bit of confusion in the beginning, but they pretty much always understand after we sit down and talk about it. The main thing, though, is sitting down and talking about it. You can't do that if you haven't met, and that's why I always host delegations that come in from other countries, because I want to share with them from the very beginning how things work. And I actually really enjoy going to other parts of the world as well, other countries, and seeing how they do things, because then I feel like I'm more knowledgeable and have deeper insights. And the inside scoop, as you mentioned earlier, knowledge is power, right? And relations are everything. No matter where you go, no matter what country you're in, relationships matter. And you have to develop those relationships over time, and you have to do it from a feeling of understanding one another.
So if anyone at home wants to learn more about the city of Dublin and our esteemed guest here, Mayor David Haubert, please visit our website, siliconvalleysuccesses.com, where we'll have a link to David, his LinkedIn, the Dublin website, and some other information. And you'll get more information on future guests, past guests, and what we're working on. David, back to you. Question. If I'm a startup and I'm looking to get access to the city, I'm brand new, would the city council, would the mayor be a good person to go to for introductions, for connections, to get the lay of the land?
Absolutely, Sean. It starts with introductions, and no better place or no better person to introduce you to the right people than the mayor. And that's how I feel about it anyway. And again, I'm very accessible, my cell phone, my email address out there, and I would just play traffic director and steer them to the right person, and maybe give them the lay of the land on where to go first. And that's usually to our economic development team, or locally within the community to our Chamber of Commerce, or Innovate Tri-Valley, or iGate, depending on their needs. I will also help walk down the path with them and ask them and invite them to keep me in the loop along the way. Of course, they understand that there's only so much I can do. I have to delegate responsibility to the staff, and the staff of any city are the ones that really run the day-to-day operations, and they're the experts running the city. I rely on them to do the job that they do, and they do a great job. But I always ask for feedback. Tell us how we're doing. How could we do better? Because that's what we want to do.
Some startups, their technology might have difficulties getting out in the public because of permits or current laws. Example, Zoom Pizza in Mountain View has a robot on the sidewalk. From my understanding, they had issues originally with getting permits for those robots. If I'm a startup and I'm doing something that might either be wrong or might need some help locally, what would a process be for that?
I love trailblazers and people that do things for the very first time. And that's what we have a lot of here in Silicon Valley, right? People that create things for the first time. And you need to have that adventurous spirit, and you need to go out, and sometimes I will say, and I'll get in trouble for this, I'll say sometimes ask for forgiveness instead of permission. But my city manager would say, no, that's not the right answer. Always ask for permission first, but understand the rules and the regulations. You know, never violate those. And you just don't know sometimes who would think whether it mattered if a robot was going up and down the sidewalk. But, you know, we've had examples of driverless buses that would come, that we're testing in Dublin, where people could get off the BART station, get onto a driverless bus, and take them that last mile. Well, you know, a bus that goes a lot slower than a car on a city lane was going to require some permitting. And navigating the stop signs and navigating street lights and making turns, this is new for us, and in fact new for everyone to have. And so we take an approach of being very careful up front and going slow to then go fast. And I always like to say, know the rules, find the pitfalls, talk them out, get permission, go slow in the beginning to go fast.
Another thing that was mentioned earlier was the importance of relationships. We even had a full episode of this, episode 19 with Del Christensen, talking about the value of a network in Silicon Valley. From my understanding, some cities have this network, this relationship with overseas cities. I believe it's called sister cities. Would this be a way for a startup or a early stage company to access a new market?
Well, you brought up a good one, Dell over at Bay Area Council, and they do a great job, and on a very high level, state to state or state to country, they do a great job, and I would say they're also somebody you would want to go check out right away. But Sister Cities is also a great way to start with a relationship. If you have a sister city relationship, that means that the mayor of both cities probably know each other on a first name basis, and if somebody has a problem on one side or the other, and they need to get somebody involved, they can get to the mayor pretty quickly by going through the sister city organization often, or just by asking your mayor to call their mayor. And if you happen to be involved with that, it can be very, very helpful. But beyond that, it brings the cities closer together, right? And so it helps foster student exchange, which we think is great. It helps foster business-to-business exchange, and it just is a connection. And if a member of our sister city comes here, I'll give you a perfect example. St. Patrick's Day, the sister city in Ireland came over to visit, and they wanted to go see Workday, which is in Pleasanton, just next door to us, as the world headquarters for Workday. And Workday is very popular in Ireland. So these folks from Ireland wanted to come and visit Workday. We were able to help set that up, even though it's not even in our own city. So you can think of it more regionally. That wouldn't have happened if they weren't close to the sister city organization and we had that cross-border exchange. So it really does permeate what I consider to be commerce was one pillar, education is another pillar, and culture being the third pillar. Food, entertainment, travel, language, literature, art, all of these things are under the culture banner, but between commerce, education, and culture, we can have a great and deep exchange through the Sister City program.
We've gotten a lot of great information on the local government, the city government, how it works. Tell us a success story that you've had working with one of these companies that you've consulted for.
Yeah, so I'll tell you one that it actually has an international theme to it. So we had foreign direct investment, a group that came from China that wanted to invest in the United States. And I sat down with them and said, so what exactly are we looking for? And there was two things that they really wanted, sort of a home and a place where people could stay, host dinners and events, and really let their hair down after work. And when the owner and the leaders would come over, they would want to stay in that home. And we identified a home that was a nice vineyard villa, 6,000 square feet plus, and with vineyards all around it, and grapes growing and wine being produced off of it. And this property, unfortunately, was in bankruptcy. And so they just didn't know what to do, how to get this property, and it was priced way too high because of all of the bankruptcy fees and different loans that were against the property, and it was mired in bankruptcy for 3 years. And so I came in and helped them just buy the note and finish the bankruptcy and get it done for a lot less than the asking price of the villa itself. They were able to move in and create a home base, and from there, the next thing they wanted to do was to buy office space, which they eventually wanted to turn into an incubator. So they bought land in San Ramon, or rather buildings in San Ramon. It turned into what we call today the launching pad, and it's run by Silicon Valley Global, good friends of mine, that were able to renovate the space that they bought, and they got a really good deal on the purchase price of that as well. And now we have businesses that are being incubated out of that. And as far as the Tri-Valley goes, they're one of the top producers, in my mind, located in San Ramon, just the city next to me. And so we were able to facilitate two really large investments in an 18-acre, 6,000 square foot villa and about 30,000 square feet of office space, which is now a wonderful incubator.
A little bit of personal information, where that incubator is. I used to go skateboarding in that parking lot growing up.
Oh, that's
right. So I grew
right.
up in Danville, the city next to San Ramon, and Dublin has grown so much in the last 20, 25 years. It's pretty incredible. So probably a lot due to the amazing mayor there.
I've only been there 6 years, Sean, but I'll take credit for the good stuff.
So another question for you. We've talked about sister cities. We've talked about how getting to know the mayor and the economic development team can lead to all these opportunities, and how there might need to be permits, such as the story with the autonomous buses that are being tested off BART in the area. We've talked about the power of network in the Bay Area Council. We've talked about the mayors here. Some of them have full-time or part-time jobs with being a mayor, or full-time jobs with being a mayor. All this. What information are we missing that would be very valuable for a startup?
Yeah, you know, I'll go back to one of your earlier guests that did a great job. It was Silicon Valley in the hip pocket.
Oh,
right?
in your pocket.
In your pocket.
Last week's episode.
Silicon Valley in your pocket, and they did a great job of explaining how you need a mentor. And you might need traction more than you need investment. So don't be with your hand out looking for money. Be with your hands up, ready to go and get traction. And I think that's some really good advice that they gave. But it kind of comes with being a mentor. And we know, Sean, whether it's a relationship through a sister city or friendship city organization or through business to business, there are right ways to get things done, and there are very wrong ways to get things done. Mentors will help you do things the right way. And we also have seen epic failures where relationships fall through because they either weren't started off the right way or went sideways after a while. Getting back on track with relationships and getting it done right the first time, critical for success. So get a mentor, watch what others have done, so learn from others' mistakes and learn from others' successes, and always stay close to the laws and regulations and guidelines of the local, whether it's the city government or state government. Make sure you follow the rules, but it starts from knowing the rules in the beginning.
And with 30 seconds, who is an ideal customer for your consultant practice?
Yeah, anybody that wants to do business anywhere in the world, whether it's in the area of education or in the area of business, small business startups, sales and marketing strategy, foreign direct investment, and then any one of those people, as long as they have a good plan in their head, I can help them get it done.
And what is the best way to reach out to you and contact you?
Yeah, I think through LinkedIn is a great way to do it, through my website, trinityconsulting.com, and through City Hall. If they can't find me anywhere else, my information is always available there.
David, thank you for your time. Thank you for being a guest on Silicon Valley Successes, where we want to provide you the information that will help you access your dream and become the next success.
Thank you from all of us at Silicon Valley Successes. We hope you found the information presented today useful in your path to success. For further information on accessing the resources in Silicon Valley, you may visit us on the web at siliconvalleysuccesses.com, on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you. And remember, we want to help you in your journey to become the next success.